It was one of the last times the world saw Saddam Hussein alive. Now, for the first time, you will see where he lived out his last moments. In his cell, reading from his journal, and his final haunting photograph.
So he was actually jailed in a building he built.
Jailed in a building that he built, jailed in a building that many of his guests came and enjoyed.
Did he know where he was?
You know, initially we didn't think he did, but he actually did know. I mean, he ultimately knew exactly where he was for a combination of reasons that only the owner would probably know. You're just in a park.
Major General Doug Stone oversees detention operations. According to Stone, Saddam also knew what was once decadent had become bare. This is the cell where Saddam Hussein slept, bathed, and spent his final morning.
So he got up. He was informed that, in fact, today would be the day that he would be going to the execution. He bathed himself here in a very modest manner. It was winter, so it was cold. He then put on his dark suit, the one that I think most people have seen that was laying out here. He put that on. He was all ready to go. It took, I think, about a 10-minute delay. But as he went out, he said goodbye to the guards and then got in the vehicles and, of course, proceeded on over for the execution.
What did the guard write about his final minutes before he went to the gallows?
Yeah, well, just in the last 10 minutes while he was waiting, he asked the guard, he said, I want to give you all my belongings. Please give those to the lawyer, and please tell my daughter that he is going to meet God with a clear conscience and that he's going as a soldier, sacrificing himself for Iraq and for his people.
Next to Saddam's cell, his exercise bike, examining table, basic medication, and a nickname not many people have ever heard.
Why did you all call him Vic?
Little known secret. When he came here, there was a debate. Do you call him Mr. President? No, that doesn't sound very good. What do you call him? Each detainee has an internment security number, and so we thought we're not going to call him that number either. So one day he looked across and said, well, why do you have that initials on there? And we said, well, that stands for very important criminal. He said, well, what does that mean? He says, well, it's Vic. He said, well, okay, that's what I want to be called.
But, says Stone, Saddam felt much more comfortable in his garden, a garden he was allowed to grow under a watchful eye.
This is probably his favorite area. Again, not particularly too elaborate.
Did you find that odd that he wanted a garden, or did you suggest that?
No. He wanted a garden. He wanted to have a little planting over here, and it's sort of somewhat interesting that nothing he ever planted grew very well. And I don't know why that is, other than, you know, you can see there's still some plants left there that kind of grew up, but the kind of flowering he was hoping for, I guess, didn't flower. This is kind of interesting. I know this is just a regular lawn chair, but he was a little uncomfortable in his arms, oftentimes trying to write, sort of resting his arms, couldn't rest it up on here. So this got built up and duct taped so that at the right level he could kind of continue to keep writing.
They are writings, Stone tells us, that have never been read publicly before. Here, in these pages, it is clear Saddam was obsessed with his legacy.
Therefore, I find my responsibility of citizens in my role as a believer in the nation require putting the dots on the letters so that the people in history thereafter may know the facts as they are and not as those who want to counterfeit it.
So he's afraid that history will not be recorded as he wants it recorded.
As he wants it recorded, exactly.
Let me ask you about the poetry. He writes this one poem talking about Baghdad. He says, the nights are darker after the sunset, but the smoke and the burning overwhelms the city. You will feel suffocated under its skies. My days are now nights, no stars, no moon, but lots of screams. He was writing about something he couldn't see.
Yeah, it's fascinating. Even where we're located now, he would have heard things. He probably could have sensed fumes and that sort of thing. But he was seeing a very different battlefield than what he physically could see or even experience at the moment.
What do you think of the fact that he wrote poetry? Saddam Hussein writing poetry.
Trust me, I'm not a literary major here, but I think there's a sense in poetry of timelessness about, you know, the sense of things. And I think Saddam Hussein, through all of his writings, was trying to equate himself with timelessness. He was important in history, and he'll be important in the future. And so linking this poetry together, all I can surmise is much like linking the rest of this together in one. He wanted people to remember him in a very poetic, large fashion.
The empty chair, an eerie image of Saddam sitting next to us, watching us do exactly what he wanted.
In one part of the journal he writes, "Dear nation, get rid of the hatred, take the clothes of hate and throw it into the ocean of hatred. God will save you and you will start a clean life with a clean heart." But this was someone that was so full of hate.
Well, he certainly was, at least those were his actions. But how we see ourselves, how the world sees us, how you want yourself to be seen in history, how you'll write about it, there's a cunningness to him. There's a sense of where he's fitting. There's a desire to sort of piece things together so that this is what you'll remember.
But this is the way many will remember Saddam Hussein.
So this was the last photo that was taken of him?
That's right, Kira. This is the last picture ever taken of Saddam Hussein alive that we're aware of.
Why is he so irritated? He looks angry.
Yeah, he is angry, and that's very perceptive. He actually is a guy that wouldn't normally look like that, but our guards noticed it. What had happened was the Iraqi guards had written his name on the back of this whiteboard as if to take his picture in front of the word Saddam Hussein, and they had misspelled his name.
Oh.
So he turned to him and said, "I am Saddam Hussein."
A captured moment of an angry man, a man who until the end refused to see himself as anything other than a believer in the nation he lost. Kira Phillips, CNN, Baghdad.
That's